panel is going to be moderated by Linda Jacobson, who will introduce us to all of our panelists here. Linda, as soon as you're ready, I'll let you take it away. Do we have our last virtual panelist set up?
There's another one?
I guess
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, there's one more. Is he not on screen?
No, I didn't
We'll
see
have more time.
All right, yeah. All right, so no Xavier coming in on the beam today. All right. All right, Linda, let you take it away.
Thanks, Will. We have to do this really quickly. We only have a few minutes. They're going to kick us out in 15, but we're down to 2 panelists. I thought that previous panel was really good. Don't you? Yeah, thank you. When I think back on all the crap I learned in high school, it's a wonder I could think it all. I'm Linda Jacobson, and I am addicted to virtual reality. And I have been inspired greatly by what these gentlemen are doing, so we're here to talk about that. Back in the early days of virtual reality, you won't remember this, you might remember this. We used to say, if drugs are for people who can't handle reality, then virtual reality is for people who can't handle drugs. And I think that's a great way to enter this discussion in how virtual reality is going to enhance health and well-being without the use of drugs. So I'm going to introduce each one of these gentlemen one by one. They'll talk to you about what they're doing. With any luck, we'll have time to have some interaction and some comments from you. Let me just tell you first, you met Howard as the moderator of the previous panel, Howard Rose from DeepStreamVR, and James Blaha from Vivid Vision. And I will introduce James first. It's okay? Okay. I have paper. I'm old school. Thanks for laughing. Our next speaker, our first speaker, and his team at Vivid Vision are working to help people improve their vision without surgery or corrective eyeglasses. James Blaha grew up in Lansing, Michigan, and he had an eyesight problem, and he was also innovative and creative-minded. He decided to try and improve his own eyesight, and he designed a virtual reality game for that, and something wonderful happened, and he'll tell you about that. Today, his company, Vivid Vision, combines medical research with gameplay mechanics. It's being tested with eye patients at clinics around the country, and I'll let James tell you a little bit more.
Yeah, so what we're doing is we're using all this new hardware, all these new sensors to create immersive experiences where we can both treat and measure visual problems. And so the visual problem we're starting with is lazy eye, which includes both amblyopia, which is basically just lazy eye, and then strabismus, which is crossed eye. And the reason that virtual reality is so useful to do this is that we have complete control over what is being sent to each eye separately. And so it used to be thought, even just 4 or 5 years ago, that there was a critical age of 9 or 10 years old, where after that you wouldn't be able to change a person's visual system when it came to lazy eye. And there have been some research coming out in just the last few years showing that that wasn't really true. What was more true was that that people's brains are so used to normal visual conditions that when you present them with normal visual conditions, it's very difficult to change that. But if you present them with very abnormal visual conditions, you can change how it works. So we're trying to incentivize the brain using games to start using an eye that's physically okay, but that the brain no longer uses. It has learned not to use it. So we're just teaching the brain to use it again.
So what happened? Can you tell the personal story of what happened to you?
Yeah, so I got interested in all this because of the research that had been coming out. So I was reading the research, and at that time I didn't have any depth perception. So when I was young, I did the patching, which I hated, and I took it off when there weren't adults around and peeked out the side to watch TV. And I did not cooperate at all. And kids do not cooperate at all to this day with that, because it's pretty much torture. It's willfully blinding yourself. So when the Oculus Rift came out, you know, I had been reading about this stuff, and it seemed like it was kind of the perfect platform to do this kind of work. You know, it has a lot of advantages compared to things like 3D projectors or red-green glasses or polarized glasses, things like that. So when I first tried it out, basically the first experiment I did was a really simple little experiment. Basically, I was looking at this big cube, and I just stepped up the brightness to my weak eye, stepped down the brightness to my strong eye, and at a certain threshold, it just popped into 3D. And I had never seen anything in 3D in my whole life that I could remember, at least. And it was, you know, this very visceral improvement of vision all of a sudden. And so that kind of motivated me to really work on this, because I didn't, you know, I was just kind of messing around, experimenting. I didn't think it would work so quickly, if it would work at all. And so I continued to work on it, and over the next 6 weeks, I ended up gaining depth perception in the real world as well. First, just at very small ranges, so very high disparities. The keys on my keyboard are the first thing I saw in 3D in the real world. At first, it was only when I was doing this kind of contrast trick in VR that I would see it. You know, I needed help. But then after a while, that range expanded until it was, today it's about 90% normal 3D.
Come on, is that amazing? Wow. That's really cool. Yeah. And can you play the piano again? No, never mind. What James is saying actually is the tip of the iceberg of Howard Rose's philosophy that he may tell us a little about, which is the absolute importance of taking care of your own health, advocating for your own health, and doing whatever it takes to bring yourself to that place. Experimentation, speaking out, advocacy, self-education. We can't leave it up to the doctors. So let me tell you a little bit about Howard. He told you about the panelists before, and I have the honor of telling you that Howard Rose co-founded and he runs DeepStreamVR, which has offices in both San Francisco and Seattle. Now, Howard's been professionally involved in virtual reality for 20 years, since his grad student days at the legendary Human Interface Technology Lab at UW in Seattle. Now, Howard and his team at the HIT Lab put virtual reality tech in the hands of public school students, which really helped build the foundation to where we are today, taking VR beyond military and research apps and into the real world. Howard's work since then has included a lot of groundbreaking projects related to health and wellness and using virtual reality to treat phobias, battlefield, post-traumatic stress disorder, and acute and chronic pain. I'll let Howard take it from here.
Thank you. Yeah, I think your story sort of typifies, I think, what is our opportunity with virtual reality. I think when people think of virtual reality in healthcare, they tend to think of things like surgery simulators and things that fit into a treatment model, where we go to a doctor and the doctor makes us well. And I'm really focused on how we can use virtual reality as a way to make ourselves healthier. And it changes the dynamic of what we really think of as healthcare and wellness. A lot of my work has been focused on pain and helping, using virtual reality as a way to help people who are undergoing painful wound care, burn patients. And what we find is that the immersive aspects of VR and the interactive aspects of VR really address, sort of three levels of problems. One is anxiety, one is pain, and one is this feeling of a loss of control. And I think that most people's experience of, say you go to the dentist, you go to the doctor, you have a procedure that is done to you, and that feeling of loss of control is, it really contributes to a feeling of helplessness and anxiety, and that feeds pain. And we know that when people are anxious, they experience the procedures and whatever as more painful. So virtual reality has been shown to be a very effective way to help people escape the pain of these procedures. And so in a typical situation, we've done work with, yes, as Linda said, I got my start at the HIT Lab with Tom Furness, has been one of my mentors, and we've been building virtual reality applications with with researchers. Hunter Hoffman and Dave Patterson are well known for work in an application called Snow World. We've done many iterations of Snow World and looking at what it is that is really important about VR that has an effect on the reduction of pain. Some of the things, we've done studies looking at field of view. What's the difference between a 35-degree field of view and a 60-degree and an 80, et cetera? And how much do you need to really get a pain effect? The magic of immersion sort of starts at around between 60 and 80 degrees. And then it's the frame around the image disappears and it becomes a place that we go. And so we're working along those lines and now we've got all of these cool biosensors. We've got wearables. And so we're very interested in VR is a wide bandwidth medium. So the keyboard and the mouse and all of that, those are very narrow bandwidths, but we have a wide sensory bandwidth capability, and virtual reality is a way to match that sensory system better. And the whole idea, our essential philosophy is how can we use VR as a way to transform people from health consumers into health producers. So instead of looking at yourself as someone who's going to go and consume health services and rely on treatment, how can I make myself well? And you had the audacity to go and do that yourself and figure out how to cure your own problem. I think that's a fantastic example. But for most people, they're not going to go there. So we're really interested in creating applications that will, in terms of pain, that will adapt and use biofeedback systems and all of that. So just the last thing I'd like to say is that we're building games and we're bringing them out to hospitals. They're going out actually this month to top-tier research university hospitals, and so this is real. We're really trying to make that jump from research to practice. I don't think another research study is necessary to prove that VR is really powerful in this domain. So we're really excited about that.
Thanks, Howard. Thanks, James. We have to wrap it up. I want to just acknowledge that Xavier could not be with us, but I want to thank him if he's out there for being willing to robo-beam in. We have like 2 more minutes, and before I ask if there is an audience question, I actually really want you to look at this audience of open ears. And is there anything that any of us could do to help contribute to your success? Is there a call to action that you'd like to send out to this audience?
Yeah, I guess for us, we are doing some research at UCSF right now, and we're looking for more people in the area who have amblyopia, lazy eye. So, yeah, if you do, or you know someone who does who might be interested, you can contact me at our website, cvividly.com.
Yes, my website is, so we're called DeepStreamVR. I can be reached at howard@deepstreamvr.com. My call to action would be twofold. One is if you are a developer and you have applications that you think would be good, we're building a channel into the hospitals and into clinics and into people at home who are dealing with acute pain or chronic pain or rehabilitation. And so we would like to team. We don't think we're going to build this entire ecosystem ourselves, so please find me. The other is if you know of people who are, or you yourself are dealing with some of these issues of chronic pain and would like to contact us, we are starting a beta group. And if you contact me, I can send you information on that, and you will have first access to the things that we build. That's our call to action.
Thank you, gentlemen. Time? questions, audience questions? And while we survey the audience, I just want to thank the audience for being here and encourage everybody to keep making the world a better place. Richard, don't you have a question? Okay. Jackie? Oh, good.
This gentleman.
Hold on.
Come in late, sorry. But biggest issue is how you're going to get your great technologies through the Leviathan destroyer of medical approval. The FDA into product through trials, the unfair competitive advantage of our Congress shutting down great things. How do you see that happening? What are the, and if you've already answered it, sorry about asking a question nobody's already answered.
Okay, so the FDA, the short answer is the FDA is what I would call as in a 50 Shades of Gray state with a blindfold on, where they're trying to not stifle this weird sort of digital health revolution, but they also are going to come in at some point and start regulating. In our case, we have a plan for dealing with the FDA. If we have to go there, we try to not go there if we can. But I would say that in my discussions with lots of doctors, what we're doing is non-invasive, and if they don't like it, it's elective. They can stop, and there's no residual problems. We do have clinical data. We have fMRI data. We have over 200 published studies in top-tier journals behind us. So I think that what I'm hearing from the doctors is that's not a stumbling block, and they're really ready for change. But I think at a certain point, especially when you hit the reimbursement wall, that's a big deal.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Where the FDA keeps releasing these statements that sort of clarify, but they don't really clarify. And I think as long as you are making sure how you're proceeding is ethical, that you're not harming anyone, that you care about the truth, and you're trying to demonstrate that you care about the truth with studies, I think you could never be 100% sure that the FDA won't come in and say, okay, you need to stop doing this or whatever. But as long as you're trying to do it correctly, I think they view that highly in general, and they
But I mean, like when Google's wife, when the doctors who want to read, I call them the priests who want to read the entrails, tell you need another priest to tell you what your own DNA is, and the DNA project was funded by American taxpayers. There's some issues here. I know the Rock Health guys, we have people doing mobile stuff for Plantronics, and even things like phones in hospitals, headsets and phones could interfere with their actual radios. There's some real issues that you got to get through.
So I would just, I don't want to belabor this, and I'd love to talk to you afterwards, but I think that underlying this is a culture clash between medicine and Silicon Valley. And Silicon Valley is all about disruption, and we want to solve a problem. We want to solve it fast. Medicine is about tradition and process and about procedures and protocols. And I think that some of the discrepancy is the gap between those two cultural views. But I do think that digital health is going to happen, and they're not going to necessarily embrace it, but also, we're in an environment where they might not have a choice about some of it, but I totally agree.
Just only as a last parenthetical comment, I mean, great work, you guys. Particularly, I love the way it came out of your direct experience of your own taking care of your own health, and that's going to share that with a lot of the world. I also have a health website dealing with type 2 diabetes, and so I'm addressing a lot of the same issues you are. But I think the way a lot of us are doing it is we're avoiding the FDA just by going directly to the audience and having non-invasive and things they can do, and so it's a positive way for them to engage the technology without actually having kind of a medical thing. It's more like self-improvement. And so I was wondering, is that how you're seeing it at DreamStream?
Yeah, so DeepStreamVR is really about, we have this problem with the word game. We use it to our benefit when we can. The FDA doesn't regulate games, so that's helpful, and we don't make claims about our games. So I think that it is, Lumosity has kind of led the way about walking that fine line. And 23andMe is sort of I think they're in sort of a different case when they start telling you what your chance, your risk of getting a disease is, and I think that's where they cross the line. So there are lines here that if we're careful and we're, I think as you said, I think the first thing is to be responsible, to use real science, to not just go, flip the finger to the establishment, but try to show that you really are doing this in a very measured and scientific-based way. And then when it comes down to it, you'll be in a much better position.
All right, please join me in thanking James Blaha and Howard Rose for making the world a better place. And keep coming back. It works.